And the headline here is FIFA says its games will still be the best, in quotes, without EA. So FIFA supposedly has already got multiple games in the works and plans to compete directly with EA starting in 2024. So following EA's announcement, it says that it would be dropping the FIFA name from its football series in favor of EA Sports FC branding, which we discussed on this live show. FIFA itself says it's already working on multiple new games, some of which are due to launch this year. Let me just give you the quote from the FIFA president. He says, "I can assure you that the only authentic real game that has the FIFA name will be the best one available for gamers and football fans." FIFA president Gianni Infantino says in a press release. I mean, that's how I feel about esports business channels also. But I'm curious what you guys think of the FIFA basically now saying, we don't need you, EA. We're going to make our own games. Anyone excited about FIFA made games, Jeff?
I think this is super delusional. I mean, I'd be very curious to see who they're actually going to get to make this, because obviously FIFA's not, making it themselves. The one, studio that maybe could do it and has like the development chops would be 2K, given their success in other sports games. I really hope they don't do that as someone who owns Take-Two stock. I just think EA has such an advantage and such a network effect with Ultimate Team every year that, I remember when I was an analyst a few years back, there was a big hubbub when Cristiano Ronaldo signed an exclusive deal with Pro Evolution Soccer, which is made by Konami. And that game was actually free to play. And people, investors were like, wait, like they lost Ronaldo. Like, what does this mean? Are people going to go to, he has a lot of fans, clearly. Are they going to go play Pro Evolution Soccer? And the answer was like resoundingly no. I mean, the game, I think FIFA is like 10 times literally 10 times the size of Pro Evolution Soccer in terms of player base, and probably 100 times it literally in revenue. So I don't think that there's any risk here. I think anyone who tries to compete with FIFA will probably just be spending a few $100 million to get 5% market share. Same way I feel about EA continuing to try to compete against 2K in basketball. Like that war is over. It's been won. So
are you saying that EA's game, the EA Sports FC, regardless of how good the game is going to struggle to compete against FIFA's?
No, the exact. Sorry, maybe I misspoke. The exact opposite.
Okay,
EA's
so you think
game without FIFA, the FIFA license means almost nothing. Because I think this is what people get confused about. Is like when you're talking about losing the FIFA license, all that means is the name on the front of the box. They'll still have all the players' names. They'll still have all the teams. They will lose the World Cup mode, which is notable, but they will have it for this World Cup. And my guess is by the next World Cup, FIFA will come slinking back to EA and will take a lower licensing deal.
So you think there's no chance FIFA puts out a great game?
Zero.
Does anyone disagree? Jimmy, Lindsay, anyone in chat?
They certainly have the resources to put out a great game, i.e. the money. Whether they choose the right players and the right studio to do so remains another question. And I find it extremely hard to believe that they have something that's going to be ready to go within this year, and that they saw this coming, and that there's some grand plan to release an awesome game.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
We talk about it with blockchain gaming, and we talk about it with every gaming studio and acquisition. Making a game is the hard part. The licensing, the naming, I feel like that should be the easy part here. So when I saw the fight and the split, I just didn't really know what FIFA had to offer. I think the World Cup mode is super compelling, and that's a great argument, Jeff, because I'm not a big FIFA fan, but I'm a big NBA 2K fan, and I get that much more into it during playoffs because they have playoff modes and you can play the matchups. I think that's even more involved with soccer and tournaments and events like that. But I would, if you've played this game every year, if you've purchased it every year for 5, 10 plus years, as a lot of these diehard fans do, I think you'd probably stick with the game mechanics and the menus and the stuff that you know and love before you jump ship. Having said that, I do think it's smart of FIFA to try and branch out. I remember when NBA Live was a thing that was competitive and good for 2K, and I thought it made both franchises better, but there was a clear winner and a clear loser. So I don't know how long FIFA could really keep up with EA and how much they're going to get right the first try without them.
Is no one surprised that they said the game's going to be ready next year? Does anyone like tinfoil hat say maybe FIFA was planning this all along and they had a game in development? Let me just think about that and let me catch up on these. Wani says, sorry, I'm late to the party. Wani, welcome. Always welcome, regardless of the time. Hello, Lindsay. Wani says, Lindsay's mukbang is the best. That's it. It's the bonus included with this episode. Antonio says, not having the FIFA brand won't affect EA. EA is the standard in sports games, in my opinion. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, right? Because where's the loyalty? Is it the loyalty to the game or to the brand? And, you know, I don't know if EA's games are so good that people are like just deadly loyal to it. Or if they just want to play something that has the players that they like in it. Chris says, PES/Winning 11 was always the better game engine, but never won without the FIFA licensing. Next, you're going to say 100 Thieves can make a good video game. Chris, you're giving me the perfect segue to our next topic, so just hang on to that for a second. But Wani says, I agree with Christopher. I mean, what chat's saying here is what I'm hearing is, although Antonio disagrees, but at least Chris and Wani think that this game, like the FIFA branding, is what's more important. And so if we look at sales data 2 years from now, the FIFA game should outsell the EA soccer game. Does anyone think that may happen?
Yes. If they put out a half decent game, I think the branding is incredibly important. I think it completely hinges on their game development and who they choose. And I don't necessarily have faith that they're going to make the right decision in that regard.
So one thing I'm interested to understand a little bit more is FIFA's like other licensing strategy, because isn't FIFA just the international competition? So like, will this game not have, because one of the things that EA has always stressed, their FIFA licensing, they have like 350 licenses. So they license the Premier League, they Man U, Man City, they license La Liga, they license, all these different leagues. Like FIFA, will they just have a World Cup mode, which in and of itself could have value? People really do like playing with Spain, Portugal, and all these teams, but like, will now players go to them and try to get their own deal? Like if I'm Cristiano Ronaldo, do I go and say, well, you can't put me in that game unless you give me a cut? So like, I think they're going to find they have a much bigger challenge on their hands, in addition to just actually building the game, which, keep in mind, EA has been doing for 30 years and has probably spent cumulative, $10 billion developing over the period of 20 years. Like that's a lot of, R&D debt to make up.
Can I just throw something out there? Of all I'm the first guy to say making a great game is hard, but why is making a soccer game so hard, right? Like the physics are pretty simple. The game is the game, right? Like you don't need some new twist on soccer. It's not like you need to invent game mechanics or storyline or anything to draw players in, right? Like if anything, this is the easiest kind of game to make possible. So yeah, I'm always in the camp of making good games is hard, but here the bar is sort of low, right? I mean, it's like it's a relatively slow-paced sport. It's relatively easy to model, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something there, but I feel like FIFA has a high chance of putting something very competitive out, and EA maybe misplayed their hand on this one, maybe. And let me just give the backup for that, and then I'll read some of the comments here. But some of the backup is there was this article that came out. I don't necessarily want to cover the substance of this, but it was like EA the next day put out this saying, hey, we have unannounced games and major IP for 2023. So like that they've got new stuff coming and that we haven't publicly disclosed it yet. Does anyone think this is in any way connected? Right? Like they want to change the narrative. We're still making games. We're still, that maybe EA is worried. Does anyone buy that? Or am I am I reading too much into this, Jimmy?
I think you might be reading into it. I mean, FIFA is one game out of a ton of great games that EA puts out. I'm hoping that major IP is the new Dragon Age, because that's what I'm looking for personally. But who knows? Maybe it could be something completely different in a new franchise. Sure, they probably needed some good press in the cycle, but it's not like you come up with, if they're coming out with a game in 2023, it's been in development for, years, I would think. So I don't think this is just like, hey, here's my more attractive new, girlfriend or whatever. This is just something that they needed to put out, but something that they were working on independent of whatever happened with EA. They're probably completely blind of each other too. I would think that whatever game's being put out could care less about how well FIFA does. That's how EA operates. The FIFA team doesn't care how well the NBA team does. So
someone at some level cares.
At some
Andrew,
level,
Andrew cares. Let me just read some of these comments here. Wani says, I'm not sure FIFA is more important than gameplay and stuff, but I think if FIFA releases the game, it can be serious competition. That I agree with.